Greetings, everybody! Welcome to the Dracovin Empire! Are you ready to dive back into the world of darkness? I hope you are! Today, we are going to be visiting the world of Changeling The Dreaming to learn about another Kith that's out there. One that springs from the dreams of revelry, lush, pasture, and sin. So if you're ready to join me on this adventure, I am your host and guide here, Sundering and Dracovin. I can outstretch my hand here, take us through the gauntlet, through the dreaming, through the mists, to a world different from ours, but so very similar, the world of darkness. Please do remember to give a little bit of a tip here. I just start ringing the bell and, let me know what you think of all this in the comments. Alright. Dreams awake. And my hand is outstretched. Through the gauntlet. We go. A difficult journey? No, not with me at the helm. But we are here nonetheless, and safely here, to learn about satyrs. So, if I was to look into satyrs, and especially, hey, mechanically playing one, where would I go to? What sources would I have? More than just the information I'm giving out here. There's always more details. I only go over so much. But here's 3 books that I could recommend to you. Hey, Changeling, any of the core books. I like the C20 book, any of the player's guides. Both of those, from various editions, do a very good job of establishing a lot of information. And in this case, hey, the Kith book, Satyr. There is one. Really great. Let's talk about who are the Satyr. So they're changelings. I mean, that's obvious. Nicknamed the Goats, they are, as I said earlier, sprung from the dreams of revelry, lush, pasture. They throw a party, they drink, they fight, they love, harder than mortals would ever dare. All those fronts. They're physically adept. They're connected to the god Pan. And they inflame the passions of others through music and dance. And their reveling also leaves little willpower, and little to resist temptation. That is the passion of the Satyr. Something that is deep within them. Alright, let's look at their history. And their history comes from ancient days. It is born from Greece, the legends and myth of Greece, from the Olympians and such like that, from the traditions of that region. But really, where they originate dates back even older than that. When we look to the original timeline, we have to look back to the time before Arcadia's political structure had really developed into the feudal version it is. Fae lived a more primal existence. The Tuatha De Danann ruled the Fae, the original first Fae, as immortal chieftains who ruled the British Isles and other people in various places. Strength and wisdom were revered. There were no travel restrictions between Arcadia and Earth. There were no mists. Mortals believed in the fantastic. Fae could visit the mortal realm, even live there. Mortals that brought to Arcadia by loves or enemies lived there for a year and a day. Now, war and commerce happened between mortal and Fae, Fae and Fae, mortal and mortal. This wasn't unusual. This was the way. So this is the world we're diving into. We haven't even got to see it. Simon Frost was going to take the Unseelie throne for the Arcadian throne for the Unseelie winter. But Unseelie Sidek, named Zeus, going to have the throne instead, tried to trick Simon into murdering a Seelie Sidek. Simon almost lost his life, but Zeus' plan didn't go as well. The plot was discovered, he was punished, and the Tuatha De Danann banished him to the mortal world forever, along with those loyal to him. Simon lost the throne, and Zeus could never return to Arcadia. Yeah. So, again though, we're not in the mortal times. That's fine, Zeus is okay with this. He built his own kingdom in the lands of Hellas, constructed a castle in Mount Olympus, and didn't even try to keep his golden keep from mortal eyes. Not many people could climb up to his Olympus, but hey. He had his own Unseelie court. He took his queen, Hera. He would go down amongst the mortals, inspire him. He has magic and power, and he became the king of the gods. He called his new kingdom Arcadia to mock, that he had become king of Arcadia. Yeah. Like King Ganon wanted to. So, yeah. Zeus was a Sidek, banished from Arcadia. An Unseelie court created and becoming God's people. Now, we get to Dionysus, born from the love and chaos of freedom, and Unseelie Way, arrived in the mortal realm, basically became a thorn in the side of Olympus. A problem. The bad boy of Olympus. Partied, drunk, had a good time, spoke his mind, all these kind of things. Didn't adhere to court etiquette. Earned Hera's enmity. And Zeus didn't want Hera killing him. Because she tried. Let me know. She tried. No one could prove it. But everybody knew she tried to kill him. And, so they're like, hey, you got to get out of here. Get out of here. I don't want my, wife becoming a murderer. I got to protect her. And I got you as a buddy. Get out of here for a while. Go hang out. He hung around with some mortals. Convorted with a bunch of people. Hera came after her him again. Then he was off with the Hadean nymphs for a while. And there he invented wine. Got a lot drunk. He partied. He was sending messages to Zeus. He was like, hey, buddy, what's going on? I kind of want to come back, I've been away for a while. I know, your wife kind of gets angry, but, I thought I'd been away long enough that she probably cooled off a little bit. Old friend, buddy, pal. Nope. It was all about the court, not about him. So, betrayed, he basically became very laissez-faire. Devil-may-care attitude. Went where he wanted, did what he wanted, cavorted, parried, would kind of parody Zeus in a lot of his massive parties and orgies that he would have, with wine, and loving, and dancing, and music. He would wear goat pelts during this time. Basically, he's mocking Zeus's tendency to disguise as animals, when he would go out and swing. So, yep. Mortals would join this. Caught in the dance, music, sex, laughter, wine, days and night, partying. Women named Menades would leave their families and join his cult, or be given so that, those secrets of wine would be learned to fathers. These daughters, yes, they were given as exchange, but these young women either enjoyed their new life there, or, honestly speaking, not necessarily keep them. It's like, hey, your dad gave you up here, I taught him secret wine. Want to hang around for a while, fun, great, but, whenever you want to go, you can, we're not stopping you, you're free. Out of your dad's hair, but if you want to hang around, party, drink, all that kind of stuff, cool. From this was born the first satyr, Pan. Basically, Dionysus in his, mocking Zeus, had his goatskin cape, his mantle of a horn and stuff, so this idea of this half-man, half-goat, kind of in the zeitgeist of people, basically came about and caused the creation of the first satyr. Rock music, dream dancing, goat-legged men and women, beckoning their farmers and wives to their normal dreams of harvest. This cult of Dionysus created a satyr in Arcadia named Pan. But it's really the fault of Dionysus, a Sidae, who got Unseelie Sidae, who got pissed off at other Unseelie Sidae, and, created a new Kith. So the name Satyr, of course, came to know these half-fae, half-goats. Pan being the top one. There were other half-animal creatures that were formed during this time. Minotaurs, centaurs, heron. Satyr are the only ones that survive today, theoretically, but it doesn't mean that there couldn't be possibly some of the Satyr's other cousins that were created during this time period that still might have some bastions within Arcadia. Very much unlikely, but possibly small bastions within the mortal realm. Nonetheless. So, Pan went to Earth. Basically, he went in more primal pleasures. Others followed him. They joined with Dionysus and his cult, and basically joined the Sidae. They got along pretty well, partied, were partners kind of, an oath of clasped hands together. But Dionysus had wanderlust. He left Helen in Arcadia. He left Greece. He traveled the world. He went to other places that were nearby. A philosophy of intoxication and freedom he took to other places. Other places in Europe, North Africa, Asia, that are cults of his personality kind of spreading. And the satyrs kind of went with it. He did eventually return to Olympia, And by the time he came back, he had some accomplishments under his hand. And so, him and these satyrs were welcome back. After all this adventures and all this cavorting and all this basically not caring about it, they were heroes. And so Dionysus was the courier of the Unseelie gods. Now, Pan and his fellow satyrs, they were basically criticized, looked down upon. Their base natures, accepting, basically almost seen as animals. Their laziness, non-sophisticated manners, and that kind of stuff. And Pan wanted to eat, drink, and screw. That was it. You know? He was also just magnetic in his personality and his charms. There were plenty of people that would just visit him. And in court, they'd be like, oh, that terrible, terrible being, I'd tear out his heart. But, the visit might be good for a little time, there were some people that were non-satyrs that followed him who left Arcadia. So, a lot of satyrs' attitudes, ways, came about during this time period of diving into excess in a lot of ways. The partying, the drinking, the fornication, all that kind of stuff. A conversation is really nice, but hey, sex is great, and yeah. Pan had a friend in Dionysus. They both had been abused. Pan didn't have that same acceptance in Arcadia, again, because of the very nature of a lot of what he was, and Dionysus didn't have that too. But basically, they still were separated. Now, there was one other thing to mention, too. We'll just go over this briefly before we end this time period, is that Apollo was a member of Zeus and Hera's court, but was in exile. Went on himself, he wanted to explore the mortal realms, another city, got in contact with Pan during his adventures and explorations, they had respect for each other, a little bit of love for each other, challenged each other, had combats and challenges and kind of things. But yeah, Pan never judged Apollo for his deeds, and even accepting his near cheating with a hearty laugh. So basically, the two of them had a love of game and worked off each other, regardless of what one's, way was. Pan kind of like skirted the rules. Apollo would just go along with it in a lot of ways and just go, hey, fine. So, Pan had a little bit of prophecy, though. Satyrs had a little bit of predicting the future. I think that's something I didn't really get into because of some of their abilities. And Apollo apparently learned that from him. And it was, eventually, they had a big competition over music where Apollo gained the God of Music title and Pan never got it back. That's another reason that perhaps Satyr always accepted music. Their first one never really got back that title. And so maybe now, with descendants and relatives, all the other Satyr, maybe they want to reclaim the title of God. The end comes. Things change. History changes. And Alexander the Great happened. Greek philosophy, Greek science happened. And a lot of this need of the gods fell away. Dionysus the Satyr abandoned Zeus, migrated north to the lands of the Druids, where there's still some of this belief in the old gods and stuff. And mist swallowed up Mount Olympus. No longer could it be seen by mortals. Only Fairy could go there. So this is the time that Dionysus the Satyrs connected with the tribal people of Western Europe, Germany, France, the British Isles, the Celtics. And this kind of conversion into that and kind of medding with that. The Greek pantheon faded. Dionysus remained. He became Hearn, the Horned God, and early Christians would refer to him as Satan in hopes to stamp out pagan religions. But again, even Dionysus faded away. He became legend amongst the satyrs that had been with him for so long, who joined him in this changing of regions to become these people here. The Celtics, instead of what they were. But the Sundering. The relatives of the Satyrs, things like Minotaurs and mermaids, disappeared. They'd be gone forever. Christianity rose. Migrated to British Isle. Disbelief. Things against fairy magic. Celtic holidays becoming Christian holidays, melding the two religions into one. This marriage creating new things. But the church, and its disbelief of the old ways, its disbelief of magic the way it was, reached heights. The Sundering had happened. And the Shattering happened. The Satyrs hid in their groves, their glades, tried to hide from the Sundering. They hoped they could reverse it. A little bit of dance, singing, prayer, love. What they always do. Bonfires. Bring peasants in. Cooking meals. Brewing beverages. They wanted it to be over. But the events of the Shattering, it wounded the Satyrs. Scared them more than any other people. They had more love for mortal world than others. And they knew what the Shattering meant. They could feel mortal lovers slipping away, and from them into the grave. It could be felt in their music, in their art, but now in their shoulders. Of course, the city retreated to Arcadia, trampling those in their way. The Satyrs watched with bitter amusement. They remembered how the mortal world welcomed them when Arcadia rejected them. So instead they didn't say to fight. They scrambled like drowning rats, damning those left behind. So, and Satyr knew it. Arcadia wasn't safe. They knew that the Arcadia and the mortal world were intertwined, and the dark cloud that's forming here. It's a little change for the Satyr. Despite the rulers, the city being gone, they still have their circles, their places, their rituals, their habitats, their glens, their groves, continued their existence. Trying to keep the old ways going. Especially little fires. The old grandmother that would tell tales to their children's children. Little things about the spark of belief and mysticism from the woods. All those things that could bring a little bit of dreaming. There was a Satyr there, pushing that story. Allowing it to be. But things change. Worlds change. Time changes. And the Industrial Revolution came. Progress. Logging. Meadows now cultivated by farmers. Progress. And so what did the Satyr do? They ran. They migrated to America. There was a new change. I mean, going to Ellis Island. The dreams that were there, that had not been squashed, that had not been destroyed. Granted, it was coming into the city of New York, which was just a bastion of banality at the edges of Manhattan. Dark creature ready to be pounced. Sweatshops. Poverty. Children working in factories. Wives and mothers sold their clothing to repair their bodies. As much as it was a spark of freedom and inspiration coming to New York, to America. In the cities, it still was not the way it was back in New York. So what they did? Headed west. The Wild West. A place where you could still have a little bit of dreaming. Where one-liners, brothels, bank robbery could be done by any other sailor in their place. Gold, land, monsters, miracles, tall tales of those that could ride tornadoes, or a giant lumberjack with a blue ox named Babe. Stories were there that could be half-believes. This was a place for satyrs and their magic. They met the Nunaway. They tried to make peace with the Nunaway. They were well on the way to it until trolls and redcats and knockers show up and just broke everything and caused this battle between them. The Satyr managed to keep neutral in all this, the tensions between the invaders and the invaded, but they wanted to just get along with the locals. But World War I happened. Things became serious. The West was being conquered. Civilization was coming in that way. Their magic was falling again. They sat by the railroad tracks. Or another end. It wasn't to be the only one. The roaring 20s. Jazz. Flappers. Open sex. picked up on. Maybe prohibition was out there. But down in those speakeasies, satyrs were running stills in royal areas, even too. Al Capone was reported to have had a satyr right-hand man who did many of the mafia kingpins in the day. So this was a dangerous time for satyrs, as many died defending the right to drink and be merry. Police raids, shootouts, all that kind of things. This was the echoes of morality in America during this time. Then you get the stock market crash, and of course World War II. World War II, which had so much going on. The darkness of it. Young men flying to war. Women building weapons day and night. The horrors of it. The dark cloud on New York of Nazi Germany and their oppression. So, during this time, though, satyrs meet out a rimming. Unseelie feeding on the night horrors, and Seelie feeding on the dreams of mothers and lovers waiting for the loved ones to return home. It did make them return. And of course, then we get into the 1950s. Nuclear war threat on the agenda. Families, clones of each other, the American dream. Television made the world a little smaller. Moon landing. The moon landing wasn't just the only thing that helped the sailors. No. Flower child. Hippies. Boom! Dreams of their parents, their own. Dance, joy, love, era, all these different things. Surging around the Vietnam War. This new uprising that led to the culmination in the moon landing. In the new waves of glamour. The return of the city. Now with the city back, the satyr welcomed them. They didn't want the old grudges to be there. They knew how dangerous it was to survive in this world as it was. Even with this new wave of glamour, how long would it last? So, they welcomed the city. They're not in a great place. They would help them with this banality. But city will be city. So they began taking over places, basically churning from, oh, you were helping us out, live here, to, well, you're serving us again. And so, yeah, peace didn't last long. And so the Accordance War began. Now, again, there were some debate upon, perhaps a satyr behesting the noble and heated discourse over the feudal system may have caused the Night of Iron Knives, but still nonetheless, it occurred, the Accordance War began. And a lot of satyrs basically earned a lot of respect from their fellow combat kith. They might have been big on music, drinking, and screwing, but they could stand side by side with trolls and redcaps in battle. They understood the bitterness and betrayal. They had been there when the city came back and hoped to help them. And they betrayed them by basically, being like, turning against them. Not understanding the world they were in. So they didn't have tactics, they didn't have organization. They had passion. This was a war. And this war, of course, had some kith versus kith killing each other. It wasn't great. Now, this did see the development of battle-trained Tragos. Satyrs that banded together, learned weapon skills, fighting techniques, and fought the side of other common kith. And a lot of these war Tragos now do exist. They focus on talents of enemies of the Fae. But basically, battle satyrs do exist now. Because of the Accordance War. That's why they prefer peace. As when High King David came, they saw it as a possibility. They sent Melusina, the singer, with an olive branch. Melusina wasn't a fool. Wanted the king to be sincere, but was ready for an ambush. But peace came. David managed to do it. And basically, Satyr agreed to this. Melusina became the first Lord Satyr, a title from King David. Served King David for many years as a personal advisor and confidant. And then, when Lord Melusina died, assassinated by a cold iron at a midwinter festival, David joined all the other satyrs in mourning. So. But still, modern times. We're now reached nowadays. And satyr are still satyr. They know winter's coming, but they ignore it. They live as it's not going to happen, because they feel like that might avoid it. So they drink, dance, screw, like they always have, as satyrs always have. Yeah. It's an attitude they just have. They corrupt the innocent, lift spirits, provide an outlet for frustrations, all with enthusiasm. That's the same. Passions. Satyr have many passions. This is a term that means more than just something that's sensual. This is their art, their courage, their freedom, their expression, and it comes in many forms. That's a passion for a satyr. This could be its excess, its sensual, its music. This could be romance. A satyr with passion for romance is all about the wooing more than the screwing. Willie Rose, Candlelight Dinner, romantic music. The chase is there. The passion of showing it. They believe in love at first sight. A moment lasts a lifetime. Finding true love is the goal of those that have a passion for romance. On the other hand, sex. Some have a passion for sex. It's about an avenue to the soul, seeking fulfillment, understanding through it. Sweaty romping, slow erotic exploration of the sensual. That's what it is. Linking it to glamour and the dreaming, whether that's through very shared love, dreams, fueled with sex energy, and it could be all kinds of tumblings. Many faces. Rough, selfish, sadistic, masochistic. Even Seelie, Satyr, it's a right-hearted romping when one imagines. So it doesn't matter if Seelie or Unseelie, you got passion for it, you're gonna do it. Passionately. The romance aspect of their passions, we have the artistic side. Music. It is a satyr's trump suit. They can play an instrument, but even those who don't have voices can inspire deep emotions when raising a song. So most have a little bit of instrumental skill, just naturally. They can listen to the soul, a passion for music, a burning desire. So again, even those that don't have a true, deep passion for music, can still express that music somewhere in their soul. Athletics. This kind of links back to ancient Greeks, the Olympics, where athletes and philosophers went together. The anatomical discoveries of Greek. And satyrs with natural dexterity, stamina, and strength, the goat legs they have, well, athletics and a passion for that can bring about them. Speed, distance, cross-training, physical activity, sports, martial arts. It all can be the same kind of deep there of an inspired type of art. Poetry. Satyrs can be quite silly rumors from other Kith. And there's passion and emotion that they can tell with a turn of a phrase. Love poems can win a heart. The Star Commission conduct by Cold Iron terrifies. It's like lyrics of a song, but it's lyrics of the heart and mind. It is poetry. They strive. So poetic satyrs and their passions can be great. On the front of words, debate. Physical and social competition. A mental challenge is debate. I've heard talk about the physical side of things, the athletics that's deep within them, but a good rowdy argument. Discussions of things, giving in your 2 cents. Basically playing devil's advocate. Passion for debate can exist in the room. And we cannot forget a passion for brewing! Beer, wine, liquor. Anything to tempt the palate. Some satyrs won't drink commercial products. They will brutally insult even renowned international beverages. Their homebrew, every time, perfect, their best, succulent wines, premium beers, passions can cause these drinks to become legendary. And they do have a code of ethics governing brewing and vintage. No artificial brands, no selling the product. It doesn't mean there's not a cost for it. But it's all about the skill and the enjoyment. That's when they dive into brewing. Before we move on from the passions, we do have to talk about the Unseelie side of things. Sadomasochism, fetishism, dark art, performance arts, torture, assassination, cults, violent crime. What we've talked about so far can apply to both Unseelie and Seelie, but Unseelie, in their nature, can go farther. from the sun to the moon, from light to dark. Just keep that in mind if the difference between Seelie and Unseelie is usually Unseelie just takes things off. Sometimes. Not always. But they can. It's a fine line. Let's talk about the life of a Satyr. Now, I will talk about there is specific terms they use for Seelie and Unseelie. Those that have Seelie are sunshine satyrs. Those that are Unseelie are moon satyrs. So just know that those are the two terms they recite for each other. They do believe in cycles, like ancient Greeks. Everything is in circles. Each person travels in circles of their life from beginning and end to start anew. As fawns and childlings, they go over to fun, games, amuse themselves, inspire affection and other changelings, sour red cracks, fussy boggers, grumpy knockers. Basically, they can get into it. On the Seelie side, they bubble over with enthusiasm and contagious joy. Unseelie, you're wild, untamed creature who runs from their whims or blows the winter winds. This is the most dangerous time for a satyr, because their natural curiosity and daring haven't had wisdom to temper it. So yeah, their elders are usually coming in and rescuing them. Then you get to their wilder level, or the wild ones as you might want to call them. This is the point in time where the satyrs put the wild and wild. Excess. Living hard and fast as possible. They do have some maturity, but they still want to sally their wild oats. Passion, affection, drives them, ever questing, never satisfied. Second best. Seelie play lighthearted music, melancholy and heartful romances, embrace life in hills and valleys. Unseelie live a libertine philosophy but delve into realms of nightmare. The innermost urges have primal, deviant nature. Hurt others, both physically and emotionally, without a second thought. They explore passion and ride lower coastal. Then you get to being gross, as shown here. You're old. Wild days are gone. Finale breathing on your deck. You've learned to experience and concentrate your tastes. No longer feel the pressure to constantly be on the go, to seek excitement and adventure. You still love the things you do, just not as often. You mentor the younger ones, another Kith. You have a lot of advice, skill and topics, heart-to-hearts that you can give them, antidotes. Now, depending on if you're Seelie or Unseelie, differs pretty greatly. Unseelie have a razor-sharp edges dull over time and banality. Everyone wakes up one morning, though, and realizes they're getting clocked. Their glory days are over. This can occur sometimes late in a grump's life or early. It usually is the beginning of the end, though, because it has a little manic depression series that, changes the norms of their things, and there are those that will have a remission from this kind of depression that hits them, but you never really recover fully. So certainly speaking, that's why, there are those that get hit early with it still have long lives after you get hit with this getting clocked. But, yeah, it's never going to be a change. Your body, that's saturated with finality. This is the point where they resent human shit. Weaknesses, mortality. So, yeah. It's a deep sadness. Time for death. Now they have two gifts that we can talk about. Two birthrights. The gift of Pan and physical prowess, of course, are two of their birthrights. And, their frailty. Passion's curse. They're prone to wild mood swings, especially when drunk. Slice propagation may explode. A torrent of flurry. Fit of weeping. On rare occasions, there is temptation. It's a little bit more difficult. They have to kind of push through. Try their best to survive their passions that are attempting to overcome them. Let's talk a little bit about Seelie Court and Seelie Satyrs, the Sunshine. So they do go by Seelie Code, but there are a number of rules to them that are very important. 4. Death before dishonor. They have their own type of honor, their own chivalrous code, their own knife ethics, their own philosophy. So, as they stand by the oath of clasped hands, the oath of true hearts, you don't break them. Love conquers all. Love is a motivation for faith. Love is a motivation for them. So love is very important. Beauty is love. Each one has its own definition of beauty. And that can differ from Kith to Kith. But Satyr tend to seek beauty in earthly places. Never forget a day. Long memory and gratitude, Satyrs never forget a day. Some interpret the code more liberally than other Kith do, but always return the favor at their hands. A sense of responsibility. Good nature is to return kindness. Unseelie side of things, well, we can't be forgetting them either. They've got their own kind of philosophy on doing things, too. So, in the Unseelie court, moon sailors. A dark path of exploring the passions. They were deviant, and don't subscribe to manners, tact, or restraint. Go in those primal nations. And they also have 4 things that are very important to us. Change is good. So this is like, they're not really necessarily following the Unseelie code, but they're natural philosophers, not claiming allegiance and hopeful and propagating. They need to adapt, and change is critical to survival. Change is good. Glamour is free. As long as they're mortals, there's glamour. We develop the attitude of superiority in regard to humans. We view mortals the way mortals view cows. A sort of sweet cream to their construction. Honor is a law. The concept of honor is strong among them. They don't need no chivalric code telling them how to act. They scorn honor, which is an attempt by Seelie nobility to control them as they see. So this contempt of the concept of honor is pretty big. They choose pure freedom over false freedom, embraced by Seelie. Passion for beauty. Free spirits, and you live by your passions. You take each moment and follow the instincts no matter the consequences. That's it. But there you go. There's some Satyr. Now is more information I could really have gone into, but I felt like I didn't want to go into everything about Satyrs. I wanted to go into enough and get a picture. And certainly speaking, if you want to check out the books I mentioned earlier, you might be able to get a little more details on various things in their culture and ways you can do. But I hope you've got a good idea of these Kith. Born of this strange dream of partying, of excess, of tempting people into the woods to do that. Also born from someone else making fun of another person. They really were. Dionysus was making fun of Zeus for everything he had done to him, for kind of shunning him. And boom! Satyr. And then Satyr became his fondest friend. Pan joined with him. It's an interesting story and an interesting little juxtaposition on this connection between the two. Sure, Dionysus is gone. Greek gods. Greek civic. But nonetheless, Satyr remained. And they've adapted. They're good at telling and predicting, perhaps seeing a little bit of the future, when it is necessary to do things, to make directions, to changes, to move, to travel. They still want to do what they do, to party, to have a good time, to enjoy themselves. They want to be there at the heart of their passions, which are strong. Sex, music, art, drinking, all important parts of what makes a satyr a satyr. And passions remain strong. And that can lead to some interesting directions. Again, there are warrior satyrs out there, probably with a passion for the athletics, the training, the arts of martial arts. Certainly speaking, it makes sense then why some of them are able to go that path. It's just another passion. It's just another artistic display. Just a little different than a lot of its other cousins. It makes satyrs so fascinating. An interesting one to talk about. And I hope you enjoy it. But we'll leave things there. Please do check out all the rest of my stuff, whether it's over on YouTube or Twitch. Hey, I have schedules up on my social media. That's my Discord, my Blue Sky, my Twitter/X. Those get updated with all those things. When I'm live doing tabletop recordings, video games, or other things over on Twitch, things like Fall of Avanswell, 8 o'clock on Wednesdays, where I have, a live play of Pathfinder 2nd Edition, or discussing tabletop Saturdays at 6, where I talk about news of the week, and a little bit of a tabletop-related podcasting thing. I'd like to do that. But yeah, I've got these things. You can always see them live. You can always see all the tabletop stuff over on YouTube. So please check those out. Please give that support. Like and subscribe and email, like I said earlier. It does help out the channel. Let me know what you think of Satyr. Again, I haven't done a lot of stuff with Changeling. Diving into Changeling for these videos was my big kind of deep in-depth into Changeling, rather than a little bit of stuff where I did it years ago. And it's been very fun to learn a lot more, dive deeper than I did back in the day. So, I hope you enjoyed this journey too. I'll talk about more topics in tabletop. But until the next time, you talk, you learn, you discuss. I bid all of you out there a deep and wonderful farewell.